Welcome to another episode of the ATM Forward podcast. I'm your host, Rhet Needham. Today, we're talking about trade shows. Some people swear by them. Other people think they're a waste of time. They can be expensive, exhausting, and somehow we all keep going back. So today, we're going to break this down. Why go, when it makes sense, and when it doesn't. Joining me today is Cooper Frandsen, EVP at Tetralink and former EVP at NextATM. Cooper's been around the ATM and payment industry for a long time and has seen trade shows from about every single angle. Cooper, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Do we mention that we know each other quite well, 15 years now?
Yeah, you don't really need much of an introduction, so thanks for joining us. Everyone in the industry knows you, so.
Well, I was promised some hair and makeup help, and I did not get that. So,
That was just to get you on the show. So.
okay. Yeah. Got it. Glad to be here again for the reach that this usually makes it to, which is across our industry. It's a lot of amazing people that I've known for a long time, including yourself. And it's fun to talk about trade shows because we've all sat there at the various stages of a trade show, right? You have all the prep beforehand, everybody asking each other if they're going to go. Then you go and build booths. Then we have conversations where we talk about people's families. And then eventually, we've hit the floor for a while, done a bunch of breakout sessions, and then we get to the end part and we're just talking about what each other wants to do over the weekend. So,
and we're not tired.
And not tired at all.
Yeah.
And no one's knees hurt or heels or whatever else it is. So I'm excited to talk about it just because we've gone to a lot of trade shows together.
All right, Cooper, give me a baseline for industry trade shows. Which ones are there and which ones do you attend or suggest attending?
Really good question. And as you know, there's always a way to look at it in terms of industry trade shows and then even just trade shows that are adjacent that you might want to attend. So for us, we have the industry trade shows of ATMIA and NAC or NAC. ATMIA is typically at the start of the year, right around February, and then NAC is typically in the October timeframe. Both of these shows are critical for people to attend, to be able to get updates, go to the different breakaways. And so I do go to both of those. We exhibit at both of those. In years past, there used to be processor trade shows, and then there are C-store trade shows or convenience store trade shows. The biggest one is NACS with an S, NACS in Las Vegas. That one's huge, but it might not be for everyone. Then you'll have some national and some regional trade shows for like hotels, I even think there's some laundromat trade shows. So there's never an amount of things that you can go to. For me, ATMIA and NAC are the two that I don't want to miss because they're very relevant for our industry. A lot of my friends are there that I get really excited to see. And there's always something to learn and something new for everyone, whether it's operators, vendors, anyone can pull something out of those shows.
I agree. I like them. Before we get into the nitty gritty, let's zoom out first and take a high level look. How should people really think about trade shows?
So it's a great question. I think I would probably focus my comment mostly on ATM operators. If you're a vendor, you know why you're there. If you're someone participating in the show, you know why you're there. So if you're an ATM operator, it really comes to the same question as almost anything that you value in life. You aim for what you want to be able to get out of it. In my mind, if you're someone who's looking to generate leads, if you're someone who needs to better understand the vendors in the industry, if you want to understand industry advocacy, if you want to better understand the hardware, the software, the alternative solutions, you want to understand vaults, locks, any of that stuff better, you should go. And then you get to someone who's maybe more experienced and they go, well, I think I really get the hardware and I get who the vendors are and maybe who the players are. At that point, it's the ultimate networking event. And for our industry and the way that everybody's running around all the time, I don't think there's a better moment to be able to do any network, but to network with the people that are at the show, because there's just not a lot of other opportunities to spend a ton of time on the phone. So high level for me, you're only going to get out of it what you put in it. And that includes not showing up and then going and sitting in your room and doing your emails the whole time. That's a huge mistake. It's a waste of your time.
I agree. And you mentioned there's attendees that are just going to walk the show floor and you've got exhibitors, and we'll kind of hit on both of those. We go as exhibitors and we know how painful that can be sometimes, but there is a lot to get out of these shows if you're just an attendee walking the floor. And like you said, if you're a newer operator, you're going to walk the floor for something different than if you've been in the industry. Maybe you're learning something new. So there's reasons to go for all sorts of people. Why do you think people, when they go to trade shows, they don't feel like they got an ROI out of it, or they didn't feel like they really got their money's worth? Why do you think that is?
Yeah. So it kind of comes back to this question, should I get sales leads out of a show? And so oftentimes if they walk away and they go, I didn't earn any new business, you're really looking at it in terms of the dollars that you spent one to one with what you want to get out of it with new customers. And if you're an operator, that's tough to do, especially because it's not the same thing as the, NACS, the National Association of Convenience Stores, which by the way is huge. It's in Vegas every year. You've got lots and lots of C-store people that are there, or there's hotel shows. There's, entertainment shows where you have your customers coming to the show. And in that case, you should be a vendor. But if you're an ATM operator and you're going to one of our ATM industry events, you're not going to run into a lot of people that are what you would consider to be your customers, people that own stores that you would want to place ATMs. So how do you get an ROI on that? In my mind, one of the best ways to do that is by learning who to connect with and learning what they do that is different than what you do. And I'll give you an example. This is probably, I don't know, probably would have been about 2 years ago. I was at one of these shows and I was talking to Roger Myers, who everybody loves. He's just the greatest guy. He's friendly and is always willing to talk about what he's done. He's worked for a couple of different businesses that have made him higher profile. So again, if you've been in the industry for a while, you know Roger and you know how nice he is. We were literally just chatting. It wasn't about anything super important for my business or what he was doing. And he was just kind of telling me a little bit about some of the things that he's excited about and that he's wanting to try. Didn't think that much of it, mostly just a catch up conversation. 3 weeks later, one of our best customers called and said, we're really looking to invest a lot of dollars in blank. It was a project that they were interested in doing and nothing that had anything to do with you or me or anything like that. It's not something that we do. And as I was listening to him, I'm like, God, that sounds exactly like something I was talking to Roger about a couple weeks back. Made a connection between the two of them, and both of them ended up reaching back out to me saying, this is exactly who I was looking for. Both of them were looking for the other person in this group. Now, for me, did I get any ROI out of that? No, but what I got from one of my best customers was them being connected with someone who wanted to help them do exactly what they wanted to do. And it ended up building a lot of equity between the two of us because they had no idea where to start. That was the big issue is that they had investment dollars. They had no idea where they wanted to start on this project. And quite frankly, I wouldn't have known what to tell them to do other than just listening to Roger. It sounded like a connection and it steered them in the right direction. And it was ultimately something that they were happy with. So in this case, I just was at a show talking to someone heavily involved in our industry. And the value I got out of being at that show was being able to take one of our best customers and connect them with someone that they wanted to work with.
That's awesome. Yeah. It happens a lot more than you anticipate when you go to those shows. You kind of start talking to people and don't really know where it's going to go. And it can come up months after you realize, oh, wow, well, that conversation did go somewhere. So,
well, even if you're a new operator and and again, I'm going to throw out some names and, I don't know if they'll listen to this episode or not. But if you go to one of these trade shows and it's not worth your time to go chat with Scott and Wes, two of the nicest guys who are open-minded, or Jeremy and Andrew, whoever it is, to better understand some of the vendor relationships. I mean, these are great guys. Or, I always talk about the two Brians. They probably don't know that I call them that, but Brian Haynes and Brian Bauer, who have been in the industry forever and know more than, probably have forgot more than any of us will ever learn, and are also the nicest guys. And the amount of times where they'll just probably sit and chat with someone about something that, does it move the needle for them? No. Does it help you better understand the industry, understand processing, deployment, any of the things that they're an expert on? Yeah, and both of them will give you their time. Or someone who is one of my personal and professional, just best friends in the world, Maya Fuentes. If you work in our industry and you don't know who she is, that's a mistake on your part. And will Maya always just walk over to the side with you and talk about your business and what matters to you? Every time she will. And I'm not entirely certain what she's getting out of it all the time, but you'll always see her in some sidebar conversation with someone. And most of the time, they're just peppering her with questions about what they can do. And first of all, is she interested? 100%. Staring at them, interested, answering the questions. And it's just trying to help this person get better at what they're doing in our industry. And those are just some examples. And again, the industry is completely full of people like this. But I would just highlight those 5 and say, if you aren't taking the time to get to know people like that at the show, that's on you. That's the return on your investment is that these people are willing to offer free advice. Now, I'm gonna preface that by saying I'll apologize to all of them if they think that now they're just going to get bombarded at all these shows by people asking for free advice. But it's the truth. It's that you have a lot of people in our industry who are willing to just sit down with you and help you better understand some situations. So sorry, guys, if any of you, it's worse now.
I think they get bombarded anyways. Well, for us, we're going as an exhibitor and it's a lot different. So we talked about the attendees going and we'll kind of get more into that and what they can get out of it. But as an exhibitor, For me, I go every year for a different reason. I've been in the industry 15 years. I'm not going to meet new people very often at these smaller ATM shows. So I am going to reconnect and build those relationships and talk to the vendors and things like that. What would you say to people that maybe haven't thought about having a booth, but their business is getting to that point where they should maybe think about it? Can a booth really help your business grow?
Okay, so I was thinking about this leading up to this one. I was trying to think like, okay, let's say you're right on the cusp of wanting to be an exhibitor. You have a new idea, or you just think it's time for some better brand presence. I think about Sal Cepitro, who has in recent months and years really kind of tried to start creating more of that brand awareness on LinkedIn and at these shows. And obviously, there's several others who are doing the same thing. I think it can be the right thing if you go about it the right way. And a lot of times you see some of these smaller booths, maybe they're in a corner and they've got some really standard booth material, like one, God, what do they call those? Pull up or,
Yeah, just that one stand right out in the front.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. And then they've got some, some pens and notepads and whatever. And by the way, if you've done it and you're trying, that's great. And you should. But that still goes back to ROI of going, do I want to be taken seriously? Did the branding and the brand materials that I brought help someone take me seriously? It sounds silly, but we've tried really hard in recent years to have some place for a person, a stool, couch, chair to sit down for a second. Well, I'm sure it's not a secret. There's two parts to that. One, we want you to be comfortable. Two, we know when you finally take some pressure off of your knees or feet or whatever it is, you're going to sit there for a minute. We're going to get a chance to talk to you. But we want to create an environment that's friendly. You can walk in, it feels casual. Your branding should look a certain way. And what I mean by that is know the show that you're at. Again, there's trade shows in Vegas and in other places where it is just like you need to be as loud as humanly possible, whether that be sound or design or whatever it is. But in a lot of other cases, you want to be taken seriously from a branding perspective. What you put out on your table, give them some refreshment, give them something to think about, give them something that you think might not just end up in the trash can in their room, but they'll take back with them. And all of that is a part of being an exhibitor who wants to really take their brand and step it up to the next level. What I would say is, and you know this too, sometimes it makes sense at the moment when you're rolling out a new service, a new product, a new brand, whatever it is, to go a little bit bigger. And I'm not saying that someone has to feel like that is the permanent way that they need to go about every show. But if you are doing something like that, reach out to, let's just say in this case, we're talking about, because for the most part, I think you and I are talking about like NAC and ATMIA as being
Yeah.
the two biggest shows in our industry. But if you're talking about those two, you can easily reach out to someone from each one of those organizations and change a sponsorship or do a sponsorship for the first time. Maybe even pick one that's like at an exclusive tier that it would be just you on it. So the signage shows just your brand. Or you could do a luncheon or whatever it is and have that correspond with what you're doing that's new. I actually think one of the biggest mistakes for exhibitors is you exhibit in the same way every single year and you expect a different result. Why are you going to get a different result? Or you debut something new and you kind of fall flat on your face because it's requiring show floor traffic to go by you in an effort to hopefully have them be aware of something new that you're doing. I don't think that works.
Yeah.
I think that if you want to, again, and I'll go back to what I said at the very start, we were talking about ATM operators at this point, but how do you get an ROI? How is it worth your time? What did you put into it? I'm thinking of an example a couple of years ago where someone wanted to do something new in terms of how they had kind of modified a vault for some of the machines that they were doing. And their booth was loaded with traffic. They had new and unique branding. They had brought more staff so that it looked like there was someone that was there to talk to you at all times. Because an empty booth just kills me, by the way. All that says to me, especially if you go by multiple times and it's still empty, is it's someone who doesn't want to be at the show. And they are just checking a box. So they told their boss that they could be there. And I don't mean that to sound disparaging, but like an empty booth just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
The opposite of it is bring staff. Because here's the thing. All the other exhibitors and most of the attendees will know if there's a lot of staff there, that's expensive. You and I both know travel is so expensive, but it does communicate a message. If every single person there is dressed similarly to each other and they're there to talk and there's branding that suggests there's something new or exciting or different or whatever it is, I think the people walking the show floor get it because they know what stuff they've seen year after year after year and they know that you're trying not to do it. So they approach you and they go, okay, what is it? What do I need to know? That would be my advice to someone who's exhibiting is change your methodology. What do you want people to pull out of it that isn't just like, we're a booth, there's a takeaway, there's my card, maybe we'll catch up later. That's just, it's kind of soft.
I agree. And I think every show's going to be a little different. You and I go to the NAC and the ATMIA show, but a lot of our customers go to all sorts of different shows, kiosk shows, cannabis shows. I mean, the list goes on and on. And their approach probably should be different depending on what show they're going to.
Yeah, good
They
point.
might be going to one show and they're seeing their customers, and then going to another show and they're seeing their vendors like ATMIA. Your goals are separate depending on what shows you go to, and they should have those goals before they even decide to go to the show.
I totally agree. And in some cases, if there's nothing that's changed and maybe it just doesn't make sense to exhibit or send a huge staff, fine, okay. But it's still better to have it be one of those years where you go, this just isn't our year from a timing perspective or staff or the products that we're offering, than go and just underwhelm your own brand.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me. That's the point. Is, for those that don't know, Rhet, right as we're walking on the first day for the first time of the show floor stuff, and I don't mean to embarrass you, but like there's a Red Bull or two in him at that point, and he's like, all right, let's go. And we're doing this. And it's trying to get ready because you need to bring a certain amount of energy. If you look tired and like you don't want to be there, who wants to come
Yeah.
and talk to you? In fact, my own little admission here of a Red Bull addiction on trade show weeks came from Rhet, and I love them now. And I can't imagine a trade show without them. But up until that point, he was hiding the fact as to how at 9 o'clock in the morning, he was coming with so much energy. So, but I get it. You do it because you want to be able to show people that you want to be there. So
Exactly. And I love talking to people. One of my main things to go to the show is just reconnecting. And it's really hard when you've got customers all over the country and there's not a lot in specific areas where you can hit, 4 or 5 at one time. And so it's hard to travel every, once a month or whatever. So these trade shows, it brings all of us together, and it's a good time to really connect and bounce ideas off each other. So
well, it's true because you're also, again, and I think everyone listening would know this, but like our industry is an industry of mostly small business owners, and there's very few of them that are not heavily involved in the day to day of their businesses. It's the 2 times a year that we get to meet and talk and catch up and all the rest of it, because going on sales trips, you and I have both done a lot of that. They've got enough time for a lunch or a dinner, maybe. A lot of those have been canceled on us
yeah.
just because they're the janitor, the CEO, the salesperson, and the ATM programmer, and they're beholden to their customers. And so it is nice to be able to go to the trade shows and let them know that you are actually excited to see them.
Yeah, and one thing that I'm surprised, and I'll be honest, I didn't really know the impact that these shows and these organizations had other than the trade shows. The first few years I just went to ATMIA and NAC and I was there because I was told to be there, and that was my job. But maybe you can go into it. A lot of people don't realize what ATMIA and NAC actually do for the industry. And it's not just a trade show for these guys, these attendees, to come and see if they can get the best price on an ATM or the best price on parts. They have compliance trainings, they have all sorts of trainings, but they also do a lot of work in Washington for these smaller ISOs and customers. What can you say about that? What do they do for the industry, and how do they help?
Yeah, so really, really, really important industry advocacy. I have to admit, here's, you know what, and I'll actually start with this. I did not take this seriously for a lot of years. I don't know if maybe at the trade shows we were at, were you super plugged into advocacy in the early years when you were going to these shows?
No, that's what I was saying before. I really didn't even know. I thought all they did was they did the show. That's what they did, and we went to the show and everyone met and it was
Yeah.
over. I had no clue what they were doing behind the scenes on a yearly basis, on a daily basis.
Yeah. But have you been to a fly-in in Washington, D.C.? Is that
I have not been to a fly-in yet. I have seen what you guys have done there, and it's pretty awesome.
okay? Okay. I only asked because, I've more recently been involved in some of this stuff with the industry, but had my first chance to go to one of these. And before someone hits skip ahead on the podcast, don't hit skip, because I realize if it's not a topic you're interested in or you feel like you've talked it to death, there's still something I think in here for everyone. And that is this. You have a lot of people that sit on the boards for ATMIA and for NAC, which we say NAC, that are involved in all of this. And they're involved for free with their own effort, their own time, their own money. A lot of people are really passionate about it, and it matters way more than some of these young operators realize. And advocacy matters in every industry, truthfully, but if you're newer to this stuff and you don't know what your industry is doing from, let's say, anything you did before ATMs, this is a good place to get started. And this is the reason why. These bills come up from large corporations, card companies, states that want to regulate, and they'll want to do free, no surcharges, or they'll want to make it more difficult for ATM operators to be able to get cash, right? Like safe access to cash. Or we're working on a bill where we're trying to say, if you rob an ATM, it is a felony versus something that basically people can get away with and get right back on the streets on as a misdemeanor theft crime. And so all of these different things, they impact you, every single one of the operators out there. And I just didn't know this. I didn't understand that if we do not go to Washington, sorry, let me level set on that really quick. What we're doing as an industry, yes, at the trade shows, we're trying to raise money for our own industry, and we're meeting with senators, representatives, whoever else it is, and we're trying to get them to work on some of our bills. But what we do when we do these Washington, D.C. fly-ins is you go there and you'll have representatives from the major manufacturers, from the processors, everyone. So if you think they're not participating, pay attention to the pictures, to the marketing material, all of it. We have a lot of important people in our industry flying in. First of all, it's also really cool, by the way, because you're right on the Hill. And if you've never done that, you're absolutely missing out, because you get to go there and you get partnered up with people that they might be a competitor, they might be a customer, whoever it is. You have all of your appointments scheduled with the representatives, and then you go onto the Hill. You have to pass the security check, and then you'll go into their offices and either meet with them or meet with some of their staff. You're prepped beforehand on the things that we want to talk about, and you'll go in there and you'll talk about how we want them to co-sponsor a bill, or we want them to better understand some of the issues that are happening in our industry. And those people are the ones that will go contact the representative who's working on a bill at that period of time and agree to co-sponsor it. A lot of times lately, we've needed it from both sides of the aisle. This isn't a political comment or anything, but it's just a climate that we're in right now where you really need, and in order to get anything passed, you need people participating from both sides of the aisle, which means you have to think through your comment, and it can't just be, hey, this is sort of a self-serving thing for our business. It means that we need to do what's best for the end user customer, for the specific owner of a store, or wherever else you've got your ATM placed, for you as a business, for the industry on the whole. It is such a rewarding experience. You make friends along the way. I was able to do it with, like I said, my friend Maya, and then also Eric Gray, who's an amazing individual. And we just went across the Hill. It was the hottest day of my life. We were running everywhere. We're in these train shuttles that are going underneath the different buildings. It's such a cool experience if you haven't done it, but also quite exhausting because you finish really late at night. Usually there's like a dinner with a representative, and then you finish late at night. Then you do all of your emails and all the work that you need to get done. And then you wake up again the next day and you do it really, really early. Super rewarding. And so that's a piece of it where if you go to one of these trade shows, you should understand that the people that are sitting on the boards, many of the operators, many of the people that are the vendors are all going and doing this stuff, and they're doing it on behalf of you. And like I said, it was a blind spot for me for way too long. I was one of those people that just thought, oh yeah, advocacy. We're doing something in Washington. And again, for both of us, that was many, many, many years ago that we were in that situation. But then all of a sudden you go, hey, wait, this stuff is super impactful for our business. And it also allows you to be, if you're, let's say you're a smaller operator and you can find the time to do it, another great networking opportunity. Your name and your business name go out in all the marketing material. So for anyone who does care, that sees you out there fighting for our industry, I think it only improves your brand. And that's not necessarily the reason to do it. It's awesome to be on the Hill. It's great to meet with the representatives. We actually are doing things that are really important. And by the way, we do have some people who help us. The phrase is escaping me, but just people who support organizations like ours on the Hill. We work with one of them. His name is John Alexander, an unbelievable individual who is so great at sitting you down beforehand and saying, here's what you should say. Here's kind of the way that you should say it. Here's what we want you to think about. And then he'll say, be you. We want you to go in there and we want you to be you. So my pitch as a part of the trade shows is just interact with those people who are at the trade shows that are talking about this advocacy stuff, because 100% it involves your business. And I guess if you want to be someone who just assumes that others are doing it, remember, some of this stuff is state by state. So what they might be doing on a federal level might not be enough to support some of what's going on in your state at a given time. And that's what's being fought for at these trade shows and why they're trying to raise money for it. So my pitch here, if I'm ending it, is just to say, I promise it matters way more than you realize. And if you talk to any of the longstanding members of the industry who've been at this forever, they'll tell you it matters a lot.
Yep. I agree, and I didn't take it serious at first, and now I really do, and I appreciate all the work that the volunteers do and the shows do. So if you haven't checked it out, check out ATMIA, check out NAC, and really try and do your best to support. Let's lighten up the mood a bit, shall we?
Yeah, I was super serious about government and politics.
Anybody who's done enough trade shows knows how crazy it can be. So, what is one of the most ridiculous or memorable trade show experiences you've had? And none of my secrets can be in that at all. Okay.
Yeah, it was just, so should I just say that, like, man, so many trade shows in Las Vegas. It's funny because you talk to people in any industry that does a lot of trade shows in Vegas, and they'll be like, Las Vegas, because you're there so often, you know.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is like then you get a little bit later in the night and maybe people want a little bit of money and they've gone to really good restaurants and eaten good food, and maybe it's not so bad. So I've kind of got two. One is if you've ever exhibited and then done like a customer event or even an employee event, whatever it is, moving people from a larger group of people from one place to another place with a bus in the middle of it is a nightmare. Like you and I have been to Bourbon Street, Lake Las Vegas, go-kart tracks. What am I missing? I think the ocean at one point.
Yeah.
We've done some Disney thing, all of them.
Yeah.
The bus drivers never are where you think they're going to be. The hotel is not ever situated for bus drivers. You get people on there you're a ball of stress. I'm a ball of stress. The marketing team is trying to brand the bus or brand where we're going. And so they want to get there 5 minutes early, run out of the bus. They're trying to get pictures. It is so stressful. And then you look across at all the people that are sitting in the bus. I was thinking about this, and I kind of wonder if they're just happy that they have a place to sit down for a second. And for them, they really don't care. We're so stressed about whether or not they're having a good time. And they're like, hey, I'm just sitting down and I only have to talk to the person next to me. Or I
they're
don't have
going,
to talk to anybody at all.
these guys don't know what they're doing, which is sad because Darren and you put a lot of time. We can prepare for months, and it doesn't matter how much we prepare, the buses never work out.
Yeah.
It never works out. How many
We've had
times have we... Sorry, go ahead.
No, we had a bus that took a different group back to our hotel than us. The Bourbon Street one, we had, what did they say we had? A minute and 30 seconds from the time that it pulled up until I had to be pulling away or something like that. So we're getting people away from where our event was, down to the street. The bus pulls up. They have a minute to get in, and then they get out. We ended up with extra people that weren't with our group.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, like then you look at it and you're like, I guess it's kind of fun. And maybe if we just assume that the people that are in our group are okay with it, but we just want it to go so well. And the buses are just such a nightmare.
It is a nightmare.
The other one that I'll get to really quickly was when we went to a trade show, it was probably, I don't know, maybe 12 years ago, something like that. It was in Scottsdale. And we were supposed to go to a place called Maestro's. Super nice. Athletes go there. Politicians go there. Really nice. And we had booked this reservation to take like our best clients there is what our plan was. And there was a bit of a mix up right as we were getting ready to leave. And some of that group ended up with a different group. I want to say you took another part of the group somewhere else. And I was stuck with this group that had a few really key clients for us. But then somehow people I'd never even met before. And our group ended up being huge. And so we got a different table when we were there. It was like triple what the size that we wanted. And we were there to host, and we'd called ahead and said that we wanted these, seafood towers, which by the way, come out like literally on fire and have all this 3 levels high, all this seafood on them. Each of them was many hundreds of dollars just for the appetizers. The desserts, the slices of cake were over $100 per slice. And we didn't even know the people that were at the table. And some of them weren't customers, never ended up being ones. And I just sat there thinking, I'm like, what am I going to do when I have to go to accounting and turn this in? And it was huge, very, very expensive. No value came out of it. And it was just one of those lessons learned that like we were just logistically kind of stuck with this small little crowd of people, spent a fortune on them. I'm sure they look back and be like, remember those strange guys that took us to the nicest dinner of our life? So anyway, it's good food, but like I look at that as being one of the ones where like we spent a fortune on strangers. That's how I would sum that up, as we just went out and spent a fortune on strangers. So they maybe weren't even in ATM people. I don't know to this day. So anyway.
Well, you had a good time, and
Yeah.
it made a memory, created a
Yeah.
memory. So, all right. Well, this is where we do the rapid fire questions. We're coming to the end of our podcast. So, fun few questions that just to get to know you. Cooper, what is your favorite road snack or road trip snack? Favorite road trip snack?
Okay. You don't want to go with any of the heavy stuff, nothing that makes a mess all over the car. Diet Coke, jerky, and chips. And I'm not super particular, just chips.
No sweets, huh? Okay. All right. What's the first concert you've ever been to or ever went to?
The Killers. So I would say first and best. They're awesome. Love those guys.
Made a memory. All right. If you weren't in the ATM industry, what would you be doing or what would you want to do?
Yeah. I don't know that anyone really makes money off of this, but I would be coaching swimming. I miss it.
Fun. Cool. I was going to say some sort of teacher because you're great at teaching people. So,
Well, I guess, yeah, coach. Yeah. Okay.
what's one of your favorite hobbies that you wish you had more time for?
Coaching swimming.
Okay. Look at that.
No, I've got a little completely worthless money pit of a 1974 MGB that never runs. For anyone who's owned a British car, you know, if you haven't owned a British car, don't. They're worthless and you just put a ton of money into them. It's just a little piece of junk, but I love it. And I would try to get it working again because it's once again not working. So yeah.
Darn. I wish you could get that up and working too. My mom would be happy. Well, Cooper, this was a great conversation. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. And everyone, thanks for listening to the ATM Forward podcast. We will see you next time.